working with Gjallarhorn, Journal of Germanic Esotericism, Volume 1, Issue 1, by Agony's Point Press. I am not sure about the source of the scene on the cover and some other art in this issue, but it is either a man arriving at the dawn to greet the women who will benefit from his efforts, or one leading women who snuck off at the time of the setting sun. Mjolnir, grinding by lightning, or Thor's hammer, is the chief symbol of this issue, which is devastating to who it is used against and a blessing to whom yields it. My first memorable exposure to the theological concept of an essential tool or method was either in the Breeder's song, One Divine Hammer, or in the Calvin and Hobbes comic strip. Sterngriper, Iron Grippers, and Magingjaro, the Power Belt, are said to be the two other chief gifts of Thor. But I put a Gjallarhorn, hollering horn, on my meme to match the title and its more eschatological function. 6 times since moving to the property where I set up my temple building and the outside stone circles and all that, I've heard a strange trumpet sound like nothing I ever heard before, after dusk, before a day, when a Yellowstone earthquake was felt around that area, the volcanic system. They say the atmosphere can morph the vibrations coming from earthquakes. That is not to say it can't be a sign of something deeper than a mundane occurrence. Al-Quran, Surah 6, Ayat 73, 1899, 20, 102, 23, 101, 27, 87, 36, 51, 39, 68, 50, 20, 69, 13, 74, 8, 78, 18, the Poetic Edda, verse 38 or 45 or 46 or 47, depending on the numbering. The Prose Edda, Gylfaginning, chapters 14 or 15 and 27 and 51, and other myths point these trumpet mentions in the darkening direction of Ragnarok, fated by the ruling. We can say some things about the past, but Neo and Orthodox movements are not the same as the spiritual traditions and currents they represent. When it comes to the Teutonic form of the 8 seasonal points, starting at the astronomical cross quarters, solstices, and equinoxes, the sunset closest to that, weeks starting at the sunset of Saturday with Sunundagar, Sun's Day, Manadagar, Moon's Day, Kjistdagar, Justices or Duality's Day, Odin's Dagger, Soothsayer's Day, Thor's Dagger, Thunder's Day, for Judd Dagger, Ladies' Day, and Lager Dagger, Wash Day, being originally Loki's Day. and other such things we can claim. The Draugr dwellers can use the surviving mythological material beyond the morals and cosmology of the surface Weltanschauung worldview. New myths can be formed to bring its seriousness to a new audience and make it personal. Their kinder companions will share in this as mediums of their own lives. Their impetus is of the wild jugged wild chase that takes one along to and with the other worlds with a dark enlightenment. After all, both the myths and real life goes further beyond the fence than the counter morality mentioned in the mainstream retellings. What do you have to do to become someone who could not even be converted or reverted into filtered faith? Why not be an insider to the methodology underlying mythology? We are, in our own times and places, but a regression to what may be called primitive Satanism, which awaits those who cross the fence. The myths may be said to connect to parts of ourselves, but the realms, entities, and objects have more importance than psychology. Certainly, mental work and alliances are important, but we need to work out a relationship beyond the letters that is real enough in this world to be worth inheriting. The different sides of political conflicts can be said to represent various entities, and polytheism can be so treated as a synchronicity of the modes that the Draugr wraith directs. Whatever we have been through or could do goes beyond our control, but the one fire, other side dweller, uses that to refine into being of a purpose beyond the plurality, to affect physical and emotional states is one thing, but the one fire takes it further to have a spiritual effect towards their own Traudomer. Control domain. The psychological shadow ceases to exist when we integrate it. The dark side of the Draugr, undead, is the satanic merging of the fire beings and clay beings. The divine qualities cease to be just invoked, but evoked of ourselves when we accept and manifest those in states of possession. It becomes a life beyond rebellious stereotypes or politics. We operate our own black flame to remove the conservative or liberal that once was programmed in. Fiction may convey things to people, but reality gets stranger. That doesn't mean we unnecessarily risk continuance by exposing ourselves. Some things must remain secret, or secret to the outsider, or even to the fellow insider, because they are to have their own practice and experience of the other side. That can include concealing the tools and abilities of the individual or group. We regard all forms and qualities, but the ultimate essence is al-fawr, the source of all else, beyond the other, a causal or astral. Probably the most unique thing in this issue is the 9 planets as the 10 realms, the order of which breaks the typical grimoire order to have the moon below the earth, Neptune at the bottom, and Uranus between Mercury and Jupiter, in what seems like it is an octahedron connecting them with 24 paths, representing the runes are the sides of a garnet stone. Futhar Guhuni Jai Pasat Bemlungdo are cattle, wild beast, thorn, speech god, ride, ulcer, gift, joy, hail, need, ice, harvest, ewe, pear, elk, sun, spear, birch, horse, man, waters, progenitor, day, and heritage. We can also point to the capital letter thing done within the lesson on brainwashing on page 45 with satanic front. Agony's Point Press seems to be the media outlet of satanic front with its branches and sanctioned currents. Beyond titles, we are as legion and solitary, doing and thinking what needs to be done. The environment and the things in it feed us, whether they know us or not. But there are certainly those forces that know us, whether we have heard of or can name them or not. The more things are for us, the easier it is to bring in the rest. The beings present can inform us in ways that seem insane, but that dedicated as worship has its return. The issues are not legality in a worldly sense, but what will continue victory over opponents. In this world, there are plenty of jobs and positions as vehicles if the physical and psychological results need a civil or legal context in order to take place. Not everything is nice or avoidance. Whatever you can do or don't do, open yourself up to the cosmology and mystical connection you want it in. Realize what is needed with your possibilities, trample the whitewashing, and drink in the cup of total life force. Every dark speck offered will lay the gifts of completion at your feet. With 9, breathe in that it is adding up to yours. And I've seen talk about the difference between soft polytheism and hard polytheism, or honest polytheism. That Satanism is basically just a term for hard polytheism or honest polytheism, and that it's not the same as, you know, this issue throws in the term white Christ. You know, I think they mean Christ. And so, you know, that sort of thing. There is a telling here that sort of summarizes the myth cycle and shows that things aren't, you know, quite as nice as what they say, and how what was recorded was basically recorded through Christians, just like some people generally hear the Yazidi through the Sufi or the Sufi material. And that's not quite the same as looking at it in context are thinking about it beyond that in its ancient things of it doesn't matter what you do or what you don't do. It's more about connecting it to the path. But basically, everything is on the table, you could say. And this issue may mention Thor and Odin and the Allfather and all that, and some other specific examples, which I didn't attempt to give an interpretation for others. Some specific examples that I used for terms weren't terms used in the issue. But it's more about, see, what's the situation and what you have to do. Here's the name or the entity that you work with in this. So it's not about narrow faith. It's not about a faith that goes through a particular priesthood. I mean, you may want to group together and do stuff with a group or connect to a certain interpretation, but it's not about getting yourself those labels. There's avoidance of even, like people say, well, the difference to pagan and heathen, for example, if you look at what they mean, they weren't really definitions of a different spiritual path, but people have used those terms because they want to distinguish themselves from Christianity or something like that. And, the point goes beyond that. It's the stories that are told, different times will be affected differently by different ways. But it's not just about, entertainment and here I go, my extra comment maybe made things a little bit softer than they needed to be or whatever. But you see, with the meme, I summarized my idea of this book in another way. The center of which, of course, is the stone that says what it is, and the words and the diagram representing the 9 worlds and the gap between those 2 worlds. As if you haven't picked up by now, I do view every type of spiritual path is really beyond some sort of text or something like that. It's about living a lifestyle. So the text gives you ideas to, get you into that lifestyle, into that mode of being.